Hey, good afternoon, friends. It's Floral Fridays. I'm Stephen Brueggerhoff, your county horticulturist with Brazoria County AgriLife Extension, bringing you a program that I like to call Floral Fridays. Today we're going to give you a tour of our demonstration gardens. Oftentimes that's where Floral Fridays is. It's out in the demonstration gardens, but I'm so glad you could join me today. I'd like to give a shout out to our Brazoria County Master Gardeners Association, a great group of volunteers that are helping to promote research-based information and education about horticulture and gardening, best practices of gardening to you and to me as well. They're a great group of folks, and I can't say enough good things about their service and the quality programs that we provide from my office. Well, today I wanted to visit the gardens for a little bit, take a little bit of a stroll and look at some of the plants that are doing quite well during this summer heat. Right now, unfortunately, it's really hot out here, folks. So, we had all these unseasonably seasonable rains for quite a while, saturated soils. My backyard, believe it or not, is still saturated. But now we're getting into the doldrums of summer. That's right, when the heat starts accumulating and the humidity is making your hair, every day is a bad hair day. So that's what's happening today and, at least through August or maybe even in the beginning of September. But fortunately, this is a great time of year for the insects that we would like to attract to our garden, some of those insects that we consider to be pollinators, some that we don't know that are pollinators, like different species of beetles. A lot of native bees can be pollinators as well, not just about the honeybee, the naturalized European honeybee. So there's quite a bit of activity out here. Remember that these insects, there is a specific term that's used for their activity, for their biology. They perform well as the heat of the day starts gathering momentum. If you all have ever had a chance to look at butterflies. So here's a good example. If you've had an opportunity to raise monarch butterflies at your house or maybe at the school that you've been volunteering with, and you get them from the caterpillar stage through the pupation into an adult, into the winged adult that we all know and love, if you watch their habit at nighttime, the butterflies will tend to roost, like a chicken roosts, but butterflies roost as well. They'll go up to a higher part of the canopy. They'll hang upside down, and they'll remain extremely still. Now, I used to, until morning, when the sun starts coming out and the temperature starts to warm a little bit, these insects need that time to rest. If they don't have that time to rest, they literally can, they have no energy left, no reserves to pull them through the night. If you disturb a cluster of butterflies that are roosting in a shrub, if you're out hiking and you happen to be able to see several adults that are hanging upside down, you don't want to disturb them because they start to expend energy. They need to replenish that energy, and they can't do that, for a good 6 to 7 hours. So they need that time to rest and reserve, to slow down their metabolic process and reserve all of the energy that they've accumulated during the day, so that when they do wake up, in essence, when they do start to become active in the morning, they can start hunting for those sources of energy. Nectar, that's right, to keep them alive, to keep them going. So if you didn't know that about butterflies, now you know. I used to work with butterflies that were indigenous to Central America in some greenhouses at the University of Texas up on campus. It was a pleasure to work with those butterflies and learn a little bit more about the species and diversity of butterflies that are here on the earth. The ones that we tend to see are the swallowtails right now. You might see a yellow one with black bands on it. I think that's the giant swallowtail that's coming through. There's black swallowtails. There's monarchs. There's queen butterflies. There's Gulf fritillaries. So there's quite a number of butterflies that we get to explore and enjoy out in our gardens, but you don't get the butterflies without putting the plants down. So we're going to explore some of those plants that are a good nectar source for these pollinators. Now, I do have my hat on. It's always not a good, it's always good to, as an interpreter, a storyteller, you want people to see your eyes to let them know you're paying attention. But it's bloody hot out here, so I'm going to put on my sunglasses. So I apologize for that, but you know, duty calls. I've got, even when I lived in Seattle, performing, and I do use that word performing my master's degree. I did wear sunglasses. I just have very fair eyes. So there you go. If you have some questions or some comments, please feel free to leave them in the chat box. I may not be able to get to them now, but I might be able to spy them as you post them. I've been able to do that successfully with my new cell phone. Yay! It's a great phone. I love it. It's got wonderful imaging on it. So let's start off with some of these plants that look a little bit more familiar. Are y'all familiar with these plants? They're very common. It's one that's commonly planted in a flower garden. Very, very successful. Mr. Froberg and his wife Nina, out at Froberg's farm, they have their pick your own outfit, and they had quite a number of fields that were full of zinnias. That's right, we're looking at clusters of zinnias. This is one of the first flowering plants that I was introduced to by my mother when I was little. I was introduced to gardening by my mother, which, you know, she's passed on now, but I really appreciate the time that she took with all of the kids and taught us about the natural world, you know, in backyard gardening. Zinnias are really easy to pull up by seed. They come in different shapes, sizes, and colors, but they're a great resource for nectar for a lot of these insects that are coming through. You may have heard me say this before. Let's pull one out that at least we can see it a little bit better rather than the pale or whitish zinnias. You see these clusters, these individual clusters of yellow on the top? What do you think those are? If you have a chance to put that in the chat box, I'll wait just a minute while you tell me what these yellow parts of this flowering structure is. Now, the cool thing about zinnias and other members of the sunflower family, or the Asteraceae. Thanks, Sam. I do appreciate the nice comment. The Asteraceae is they're great for butterflies. Now, why is that? Well, one of the reasons is that you have this wonderful platform. Have y'all ever really taken a hard look at butterflies and their feeding habit? Butterflies have a long tongue, or proboscis, a mouth part, that's very flexible. And when they land on a flower, they need to take a little bit of time to explore with their mouth part to you know, through chemoreceptors on their bodies, to find that nectar source and then stick their tongue, or their mouth part, their proboscis, it's not a tongue, it's a mouth part, into that inflorescence, gather nectar, and then head on to the next plant. So butterflies need, you know, large winged insects, they need a place to land on. The majority of flowers or plants that you'll see butterflies on, of course, are the ones that they use as a host plant. Typically the female will just kind of land on foliage and just kind of touch, or sometimes even hover over a plant and touch their abdomen and lay eggs, dot them all over the plant. But if they're feeding, they need a platform to sit on. And so members of this family are appropriate for that. So we plant these out because they're a great nectar resource. They do attract bees, they'll attract butterflies too, and butterflies have a place to actually land and work with. Y'all may have seen me check this plant out before. We'll check it out again. This is a vining plant, a native vining plant called coral honeysuckle. Look at these beautiful blooms. This is a tube-shaped flower. Nice bright red and orange. What animal do you think is attracted to this kind of flower shape? Well, a butterfly might be attracted to it, but it's another one that we often see as an ephemeral bird flying through. Really, really quick. That's right. You'll see hummingbirds really attracted to plants like this that are high up off the ground with tube-shaped flowers that they can stick their mouth part, their beak, into as well. So we have a couple of mixture of plants here that will work and attract different types of pollinators to this part of the garden. Again, zinnias. These zinnias, we did not plant these out by seed. They came back from seed, right? So, but as managers of these kind of gardens, I was just talking to another master gardener earlier, we actually do that with certain areas where we have a lot of real estate. we'll let plants like zinnias go back to seed because, you know, we only have so much time in the day to be able to take care of them. Well, let's go back to this part of the garden. I'm going to try to chase a butterfly. I see a butterfly. Yep. Yep, there it goes. That is a monarch. Monarch butterfly just flew past us, graced us with its presence. There it is again. Monarch butterflies, you can differentiate them between another look-alike called a queen butterfly. Monarchs will have nice broad black banding on their hind wings. So that's one way to tell them apart. Queen butterflies will have almost like a star pattern on their hind wings without the kind of broad banding that we see. So where I'm taking you now, we're going beyond these zinnias, and I'm going to take you to another part of the garden. Now there are some plants that you can use as pollinators. There's you've got an old well. This is actually a sump pump that's used for the to send out gray water to the leach field. Here's a plant that you will see in people's gardens, but it has a little bit of a controversy to it. So this is what a petunia looks like, right? This is more along the lines of a wild petunia. This one is a Mexican petunia. There's nothing wrong. The common names are interchangeable. Technically it's called Ruellia. I'll spell that out for you. R as in really, Stephen. U-E-L-L-I-A. Ruellia. This is just one of many species. Unfortunately, sometimes these guys can be a little bit aggressive. Do you see how much ground this Ruellia, this petunia, is covering? It's covering quite a bit. So it's appropriate out here underneath this this wishing well, the pump that we have to pump out gray water. It's appropriate for this area, but it may not be appropriate depending on your gardening style and habit, right? If you put that plant out, I guarantee you, you will have it in other parts of your garden as well. It's interesting habit of that plant, of the Ruellia, of the petunia. They produce seed pods that are explosive. I don't know if they're quite like, you know, like TNT explosive, but as they start to swell, the seeds form, and then they dry, the seed head will pop open and scatter seed, and that's why you'll see it in other areas across the sidewalk that you didn't anticipate. So just, you know, you can put out a plant like that, just beware of its habit. Get to know the plant. Here's another one that folks sometimes have a problem with. I don't really have a problem with this plant because I think it's a lovely native plant called dayflower or jewelweed. Remember, common names are interchangeable, but it does have a bad rap. Where I hear people having problems with this is in their vegetable garden. It can be aggressive. It's an herbaceous perennial, meaning perennial means it lives year after year. Herbaceous meaning it's very not woody. It's herbaceous. Speaking about the vegetation, it's easy to remove from your garden. I love that it shines a little bit, so I just love dayflower or jewelweed. Camelina is the genera or genus of this, the botanical name. I love these beautiful, almost bluish petals on this. There are other members of this family that you'll see in ditches that present themselves a little bit differently. One is called spiderwort. It's related to spiderwort. So jewelweed gets a little bit of a bad rap, I think, because it can be a little aggressive in the garden, kind of get into areas. So, but I celebrate it in my landscaping, but as far as in my vegetable garden, not so much. Here's another plant that is a native plant. So this camelina or jewelweed, it's a native plant. Here's one that's another native plant that I have seen promoted at native plant societies as a ground cover. Under the right circumstances, it can be aggressive as far as being a ground cover. In a mixed bed like this, it is not dominant. It is not, you know, there's a check and balance for it. It's a member of the same plant family that verbena falls in. This is called frogfruit. Why is it called frogfruit? I don't know. I don't think frogs like to eat it. It's just a common name attributed to this plant. So it grows by these longer stems, nice fleshy, almost stiff leaves. Then it has these wonderful little bouquets of flowers. Isn't that spectacular? This is a great nectar plant. If you have this in an area that you're not keeping too formal, that you're trying to exclude certain plants, but you have a mixture of plants in a more naturalistic setting like this, frog fruit would do really, really well. You can see little dots of white. Well, it's kind of hard to see from this vantage point. If I kind of come in a little bit closer, you can start to pick out little white bouquets of flowers, and that becomes very elegant and really complements this kind of a landscape design. Yes, it looks a little messy. You know, it is a little bit. There's some plants that are kind of just growing at their own pace and their own fashion. But it is still a formal garden. It's been developed to have borders by a plant we call iron plant, a variegated iron plant. Has a little bit of yellow speckling. Let me see if I can get in there without, well, I don't know if I can get in there, folks, so you'll have to, I apologize. We'll come back to that particular plant. It's interesting, the speckling, the yellow speckling that it has. So you see a lot of Ruellia in here. We're letting that go again because, you know, we're trying to maintain a lot of real estate with very few volunteers that are available. The volunteers are great. Don't get me wrong, our volunteers are wonderful. But, you know, we all have lives. So we try to schedule folks to come out and try to utilize some of these beds and mass planting some plants, to let some plants go, which will still show off the benefit of the garden. Here's a plant I wanted to draw your attention to. If you've heard of the term Turk's cap, this is another native plant called Turk's cap. It's a native shrub. It's called Turk's cap because of the turban-like shape to the flower. Now let me pull this off of here. There's plenty. In plant conservation world, you don't want to be picking seed if you don't know what the plant is and you don't know what the population dynamic is like. I manage these gardens, so I know what the population dynamic is like. One flower is not going to suffer for the population out here. This is a member of the hibiscus family, the same plant family, Malvaceae, that hibiscus falls in. Do you see that little structure out of the middle of that plant? That's right, those are the reproductive organs. The female reproductive organ is the pistil, that's standing straight up like a soldier. And the stamens that produce the pollen are fused to the top of the pistil. The next time you go and look at a tropical hibiscus flower, the big dinner plate ones, you will see the same structures on them. You will see the same number of petals that form that flower. So these have the same characteristics of that plant family. We know that they're related. Another way we can tell that these plants are related is the shape of their leaves. This is what we call a palmately shaped leaf. It's a single leaf that if you open up your hand, it kind of has the same the same configuration. So this is a wonderful native shrub that's flowering at a time where we know that hummingbirds are flying through and using them as a nectar source, as a food source. The hummingbird can easily identify that flower color. They come in, they beat in on that, they visit from flower to flower to flower in this garden, and they keep on rocking on. Now once a hummingbird establishes its territory and recognizes this cluster of plants as a nectar plant, it allows that hummingbird, in essence, I don't like to anthropomorphize animals, but you get what I'm saying, what I mean by this. So I'll have to use terms that we might be able to capture, right? They set up shop. Once they establish a territory, maybe even a nesting site within this garden somewhere, and they recognize these as food plants, then any other flower that's producing nectar, it will give them time to explore the area, to return to this area, find other plants, whether they are in a flower color that they recognize or not, to dig out nectar, like on a ginger that we call the butterfly ginger. That's the common name for this species of Hedychium. Hedychium is the botanical name. Yeah, that's right, Angela. It's a Turk's cap. Yep. Pretty cool. The cool thing about these butterfly gingers, they're called butterfly gingers, common name because of that lovely butterfly shape to them. kind of asymmetrical petals that are formed on this flower. You can see the reproductive organs up here where my finger is. So butterfly ginger's very, very fragrant. It's putting out a lot of nectar, and it can handle the full shade. Butterfly ginger, great addition to the garden. It's blooming its heart out right now. Very, very fragrant. It will die back somewhat in the winter time, but it'll come right back from its rhizomes underground. So hang on to that plant. It's a great addition to a shade garden. Turk's cap that we saw a few moments ago, that's a great addition to your shade garden as well. Ruellia, we saw quite a number of plants in that shade garden that'll do well. This is an area of the garden where we have had memorial stones made for members that have passed on, and we will be moving these into another area of our demonstration gardens, but for now, you know, we have them under this lovely old oak tree. Other plants that do really, really well in the shade, of course, elephant ears. I'll ask y'all to do a little bit of research. I can never remember which form stands upright and which one is pendulous. So what I mean by that is there's two plants that we interchange the name elephant ear with. One is colocasia and the other one is alocasia. And I can never remember colocasia or alocasia. One of them, the leaves stand straight up in this fashion, and the other one, the leaves are pendulous and hang down. So I'll ask y'all to do a little bit of research, see if you can find that, put it in the chat box if you can. But they do really, really well in full shaded environment. These plants that we consider to be ivy-like, you might have these in a container. We've had these out in the ground for 15 years and they're still rocking. So they work well in a shaded environment with a little bit of protection as well. Now, let me show you two plants that you may recognize. Here's one that people will ask me, what is this plant? I've had residents ask me, this particular plant, what is it? And I've had to explain to them, well, this is a member of the tomato family, the Solanaceae. It has the same flower type. You can barely make that out. I don't know if y'all can see that, folks, but I'll try to put my finger in back of it. Can you see that well enough? That looks just like a tomato flower. It's just very small. This particular plant you don't want to eat the fruit on. So it's called the American, I think American Nightshade is the name of it. It's, you know, it's pesty because it gets into areas you don't want it to be. It'll get as tall as 4.5, 5 feet tall sometimes. It reseeds itself readily by those berries. There's a seed inside of them, so they can be a little irritating. But if you didn't know what that was, and you're going to send me an image saying, Stephen, what is this? Now you know what it is. American Nightshade. There's other weedy type plants that are interspersed in here. One of them, of course, is this wonderful tree-like specimen, Chinaberry. We don't like that, so I'm going to toss that. Here's another one that is often confused with poison ivy. It is not poison ivy. Do y'all know what the name of this vine is? I do. But hey, I'm the expert. I got to know what it is. All right, I'll give you a few moments. This is not poison ivy, and I'll come back to this in a moment. Let's look and see what poison ivy looks like. So we're in an area of Texas that just is rife with this particular plant. That's right. There's our friend. Ta-da! If you didn't know what poison ivy looked like, there you go. Leaves of 3, let it be. See them? Those are 3 leaves that are, that's a compound leaf. It's one entire leaf structure that is made up of 3 leaflets. So leaves of 3, you can kind of see the reddish stems on it. Very pervasive, very aggressive, very difficult to get rid of. At that stage you can pull it up, but it's growing underground. I wouldn't say that it has a rhizome per se. The vine is rhizomatous. It grows underground. So where you pull one up, you know, it's attached to another plant on down the line. It's better to pull them up by hand, but with gloves on and with care. This is another poison ivy right here. Look at that, those pustules that are on it. Now what do you think makes those pustules? So if you know what the answer to that is, go ahead and put it in the chat box, and I'll pay attention to that to see if, to see if you got it right or not. But again, look at those little raised bumps on the leaves. You tell me what insect you think makes that. I think I kind of gave it away. Anyway, even if I just gave it away, tell me what you think that is. So we're going to come back over here to this plant. I had nobody leave any choices or any comments in the chat box. This is a plant called pepper vine. Pepper vine. It is a native plant. It's just very aggressive, and in a formal garden they can be pervasive and be annoying, and you really got to get on top of them to pull them out. So, but they can grow quite readily. Here's another poison ivy. I probably stepped right on this. I'll be careful how I pull off my boots. If my wife's on viewing this, then there you go. But this one also has those pustules on it. So what do you think's causing that? I've already given it away. You know that it's an insect. Oops. My camera's telling me I can't rotate my camera while I'm live, so I won't do that. But we have other areas of the gardens that I'd like to explore with you. So again, we came by this first garden here. We looked at the Mexican petunia, or the Ruellia, growing quite well. We don't mind it in this part of the garden. Again, we know that it's going to be aggressive and cut loose by seed and start to grow and spread a little bit. And that's okay for us. This is a low maintenance garden. We have much bigger gardens that we need to deal with and maintain. So that's fine. We have an iris that are planted in here. Then some elephant ears that can handle a little bit of full sun, a little bit more exposure to sun and shade. Well, folks, I'm going to take you back over this way to another part of the garden, and then I think I'll call it for the day. Oh, here's one that's fairly common. Of course, there's the crepe myrtle. This is how you properly prune a crepe myrtle. Prune it to its shape, not, don't club it. I think they look very elegant. This is, I don't know what the name of this particular variety of crepe myrtle is. We've lost the name of that over time. Other plants in here, one that we call, I think it's called tropical bird of paradise. It's a Caesalpinia. It's a member of the pea family, tropical member of the pea family, like table peas. Beautiful flowers, pumping a lot of nectar. Very exotic looking flowers as well. I mean, check that out. When you get up close to these plants, of course, they shine like a light from the distance, but they just look fabulous when you can get the opportunity to get up and close to them. Now we have one more plant I want to show you, and then I think I'll call it a day because it is pretty darn hot. And then I can revisit my story about zinnias as well, because we're back at that part of the garden. Here's a plant that we call American beautyberry. Now, if you were with me a couple of months ago, we saw these in bloom. We saw the berries start to set, and they're starting to get that characteristic, wonderful look to the berries, that deep magenta to the berries. Isn't that outstanding? Beautyberry is a plant that, it's a shrub, a multi-stemmed shrub or tree that can get very tall. In the hill country where I was, where we had our family there, my wife and I moved here when I got the job. Here's one in flower right there, beautiful. These didn't get very tall. We'd go out to natural areas and they'd be maybe about as tall as I am, 6 foot tall, that's it. There's another shrub, another tree in this particular garden, this particular landscape, that's at least a good 10 feet and growing. 11 feet tall. This one is moderately sized, 7 feet tall. So now let's end up this program with the zinnias. So, member of the sunflower family. I had asked people in the other video, again, I'm going to stitch the two videos together because the video cut out on me. I went out of range. Which part is the actual flower? So if y'all joined me before, remember I asked that question. I asked folks to put it in the chat box. We're looking at a floristic structure. But guess what? All of these little yellow spots right here, that is a complete flower. So each member of the sunflower family produces structures, floristic structures, that will have literally dozens and dozens of flowers, complete flowers, within it. That's why it's a very, very successful plant family globally, because they are producing structures, complete flowers, meaning they contain both the male and female reproductive organs within that flower. They can self-pollinate, or be, they can, not self-fertile, but anyway, the pollen can be exchanged from the same plant onto each structure, each reproductive structure. Forms seeds, hundreds of seeds that are dispersed either by wind, by animals, etc. It's a very successful plant family, and it's all due to that one fact. You have hundreds of flowers, or dozens, or tens of flowers on this one individual structure that has the capacity to produce dozens, tens, or hundreds of individual seeds. All right, folks. Well, I want to thank y'all for your patience with the broadcast. Again, can't always tell when the thing's going to act up on me. But I'm so glad you were able to join me today out on a tour of the gardens. Look at some of the gardens, some of the flowers that we like to look at. Hopefully you got some of the information retained. We saw some plants that are very successful as pollinator plants. In our garden, zinnias, of course, very commonplace as far as being easy to propagate. You can get them by seed and get them rocking. You can even put them out by seed right now. You'll still get a good crop of zinnias as you move into the fall or the winter time. Other plants that we looked at, ruellias. There are most of the wild petunias that I know of are aggressive, but again, appropriate, right plants in the right place. For us, it is the right place for those wild petunias, so we're going to let them go. We looked at a white butterfly ginger, beautiful, breathtaking specimen in the shade garden. Very, very fragrant and blooming its heart out at this time of the summer. Aspidistra, we really didn't get to look at that up close, but I'm afraid if I go back over there, I'm going to lose you again, so I won't do that. So there's a lot to explore out here at the gardens. Okay, so that was the second time that I got kicked out of the system trying to end the video. I'm going to stitch all the videos together. I'm going to finish this video by saying thank you for joining me this afternoon. I'm so glad that you could join me out here at the Brazoria Environmental Education Station. We affectionately call it BEES for short. Master gardeners for their help and support out in the gardens, keeping them looking great for y'all to come and visit. By the way, we will have an open garden day coming soon, September the 18th. We're getting the gardens looking good for you because we'll be hosting a fall plant sale. We'll have education tours on that day as well. This is an in-person program. So please come on out. You'll get to shop and explore some of those for some of those plants that you may be able to add, ornamental plants and some vegetables that you may be able to add to your collection and your landscape. So September the 18th, come on out. We'd love to have you. It'll be here in Angleton at our demonstration garden, BEES. I'll also give some education tours through the rose garden, through the herb garden. We want to make sure that you have an outstanding time when you come here to our gardens. So thank you to the Brazoria County Master Gardeners Association, to Brazoria County Administration for hosting us and our office as well, because we're here to serve you and at the best capacity that we have. We have other agents in exploring different disciplines, coastal and marine resources, ag and natural resources, family and community health, 4-H, and of course, yours truly in horticulture. So this is Stephen Brueggerhoff signing off, Brazoria County AgriLife Extension. I'm your county horticulturist. I look forward to seeing you in the garden. Cheers.